Yo, and welcome back to another great episode of Beer Filled Fantasy Shots. I'm your bartender, your host, Dan Theory at Theory BFF. Another great episode I'm bringing you guys today on September 21st, 2017. Two episodes like we always do during the week, 6 days a week, plus YouTube Live on Sundays before the games start. Tonight we are doing a segment. I'm just gonna call Thursday. Anything can happen Thursday. I haven't really found a great segment for this, so I'm just going to kind of touch over on some topics and things like that are starting to come into fruition going into the season, and then later on tonight I will bring you guys news once we just get more stuff rolling out. Uh, so for so for this, we're going to talk about premature ads, guys. You should be picking up off the waivers. Um, a couple weeks prior, or at least before next week's games. And I'm going to talk about some players that haven't been owned in 50% of leagues or more that may be still available. A lot of these guys probably won't be, but just based on the percentages, they're so shockingly low to me. And then we're going to talk about um, you know a bye week starting in week 5, and you got quarterbacks. You typically only roster one. Most leagues you only play one. You got to start looking about who your quarterback replacement is. There's 4 teams on bye week in week 5, and we're just going to talk about some of the good bye week replacements potentially, and then we'll also talk about some of the defenses. Though I tend to hold off on rostering more than one defense until um, the bye weeks are done and benches tend to lose their value after that. So we're just going to jump into it. There's 2 players that are coming off of suspension or there's one player coming off of suspension after this week, and that's Willie Snead. He's owned in like 95% of leagues. I don't expect your league to have him if he's there for some reason and you have the roster spot to roster him. Go out and get him. With injuries coming out, certain players not performing up to their standards. There may be, in those shallow bench leagues where they've been holding on to maybe 1 or 2 guys, maybe, Willie Snead and the next guy I'm about to talk about, and then Andrew Luck maybe or someone like that, and Snead's the odd man out because they need to fill up spots as players get hurt. So he may be there. He comes off of suspension after this week. Um, so if he's there, I would advise you to go out and get him, even if you don't, feel like you need receivers. Next is a guy that's owned in 99% of leagues. Well, I'm going to throw his name out there anyways, and that's Doug Martin. He doesn't come off of suspension next week, but he comes off of it in week 5. And this is when bye weeks start. And just like with Willie Snead, maybe they have him on a roster and um, you're you got some injuries. Maybe you're rostering him and Snead with Andrew Luck. Maybe you have some down players that you're just not quite sure of, and you need that immediate help now. If that's the case, don't cut them. Try to trade them. More or less Martin than Snead, because Martin still has a somewhat value. But if you need running back and you can hold off for a week on it, I would even attempt to go out and get Doug Martin. I've been high on Doug Martin, since the offseason. I've been talking about him on our podcast since the offseason, since the summer. I've watched Hard Knocks. I've seen him look like you know, a, just a different person completely. He's in the best shape of his life, as he states, and he's come back from rehab. He's mentally in the right spot. He understands this may be his last shot with not only with the Bucks but with the NFL just in general. You don't get a lot of second chances here, and he feels like he's on his, and he's going to prove out to that. We've seen what Doug Martin can do. He can be a beast. He's put up multiple 1,400-yard seasons. Now, he's backed those up with shitty seasons, and we saw from last season. And the Bucks went on and tried to draft a running back named Jeremy McNichols, and that obviously didn't work out as he's on the practice squad with the 49ers. But Jacuzzi Rogers and Charles Sims just aren't guys that are, that are going to get it done for the entire season. That's why they kept Doug Martin. That's why they've been hush-hush about Doug Martin. They're going to roll him out right away. He may not be a beast week 5 as he has to get back into football shape and kind of get back into playing those minutes. But this is a guy that could be a beast come week 6 or 7 and help lead your team not only through bye weeks but into the playoffs and then maybe get you a championship. Also, one more guy who comes off, or he came off of suspension last week. He's eligible to play this week, and that's Austin Seferian-Jenkins. He's the tight end out of the Jets. He was an ex-first round pick by said Bucks, and then has been plagued with off the field issues and has been given far too many chances. But he's on a team with not a lot of offensive playmakers, especially in the receiving core, on a team that's going to be down and looking to throw a lot. With the shittiness of tight ends right now, this is a guy that's not that bad to look at. If you can get the targets after we see this week, he may be a good stash. And for guys or for owners that have Jimmy Graham or Greg Olsen or maybe Kyle Rudolph without Sam Bradford, maybe they're anticipating a drop off with Delaney Walker once the Titans get their shit together and Davis is healthy. I don't know. But he's not a terrible guy to add, or at least look at. I'll put him on your watch list for sure. See how he plays this week. But these are 3 guys, or at least one guy that you should keep in mind. He's owned in like 0.8% of leagues, so you can go out and get a shave, at any time probably. So next segment, I'm gonna talk about some players that are still not above 50% in ESPN leagues that should. I'll make these quick because I typically talk about these on Tuesday shows for waiver ads and whatnot. But Tariq Cohen is still owned in only 48.4% of leagues. This is unbelievably crazy and should change and should probably continue to rise as this week. This should be the last week he's below 50. Next is Chris Carson at 30.7%. I can see why people may be a little hesitant on it because they still maybe believe in Thomas Rose, but Carson is the lead back here, and Seattle needs to get this figured out before they can really jumpstart this offense. It's too much of a hassle to keep rotating guys in and out. They're gonna go with the best guy, the guy that's been the best since the preseason, and that's gonna be Chris Carson. If he's still available, please go out and get him. Even if you don't need running backs, he's still a guy that should be owned because he's gonna be the leader. Next is Buck Allen at 29.5%. Again, just like maybe with Chris Carson, they're not quite sure yet of what they have, and they don't want to be the guy that drops somebody that that ends up being better than Buck Allen or someone like that. But Buck Allen is the lead back in Baltimore. Terrence West is battling with injuries. He hasn't looked efficient at all to begin with. And then you have Alex Collins who's starting to to sniff carries as well. Buck Allen has the safest floor out of all Ravens running backs. He's involved in the passing game, and Wood is not going to be back until mid-November, maybe early November. He may not come back at all if they they can't they decide just to keep him on just to keep him on IR for the rest of the season. Next, the last running back is Shane Vereen at 28.4%. He's the only back in New York that's worth owning. He gets a lot of targets. I understand why he's not owned that much, but he should. With a lot of the running backs, ones out there that were drafted high that haven't performed well. I'm looking at DeMarco Murray. I'm looking at even Le'Veon Bell, Jordan Howard, Isaiah Crowell. Guys that haven't got it done yet, and you need some of that backup, some of that true safety, and Shane Vereen will provide that with his ability in the passing game. There's only a couple of receivers. J.J. Nelson at 44.9%. As long as John Brown's out, he's going to get fed. With no David Johnson, this is a pass team. They got a good enough defense to keep them in games, but they don't have a running game to really show for it. And just like Seattle, over the last couple of weeks in preseason, they haven't figured out who their new starting running back is. It was Kerwin Williams, but Chris Johnson has now earned more snaps and should see an increased workload going forward. And then Jermaine Kearse at 26.5%. Look, guys, I understand it's a Jets team. You don't want to own any player from the Jets team. I've said it. Hopper and Nick have said it. All the experts have said it. But just like Terrell Pryor last year for the Browns, just because your offense and your team sucks doesn't mean you can't perform well in fantasy. Players have to catch the football, and teams are going to go out there and they're just going to throw out. They're going to be down, and they're just going to keep throwing to see if something happens. And as long as Josh McCown is healthy, I think Jermaine Kearse is at worst a mid play flex every week with upsides upwards to wide receiver in one range, as we've seen over the last 2 weeks. He's the fourth receiver right now in ESPN half point league settings. This guy is getting it done, and as long as McCown keeps targeting him and McCown is good enough to take advantage of garbage time, you're going to get that. A la Terrell Pryor last year and the big Allen Robinson year with Blake Bortles. They're in their garbage time a couple years ago. So this shit can happen. Don't be the guy that misses out on them. Even if you don't need a receiver, pick him up and trade him, or trade somebody else to increase the position of the, to increase another position of need that you may need. Last segment. I know this has ran a little bit longer than I wanted to, but as I mentioned before, with bye weeks coming up in week 5, you have your quarterback, you have your defense trying to figure out what you want to do with those spots, mainly quarterbacks at this point. There are 4 teams on bye week in week 5. 2 of them are, I guess all 4 of them actually have some actual quarterback play, mainly Matt Ryan and Drew Brees out of Atlanta and New Orleans, and then recently Trevor Siemian with Denver, and then Kirk Cousins if he gets it going. I've written down some quarterbacks that could be a good streaming option that should be available right now, or that you can maybe even trade for if you believe in them, that you could help fill in these bye weeks, as you can get these guys for cheaper, if you're not wasting waiver spots or a lot of fab money. Just hold on to them if you have the roster spot. Don't if you don't. Brian Hoyer is playing against Indy. Sam Bradford is playing against Chicago. Andy Dalton and Tyrod Taylor. The Bills and Bengals are playing each other. Both have good and questionable defenses, but we could see an uptick in Dalton with the new offensive coordinator, and Tyrod is still safe. And then Marcus Mariota, with as bad as he's, with the bad starters he's gotten off to, he's not a terrible guy to maybe target. I believe Tennessee gets Miami that week, and they just got decimated by Phillip Rivers through the air. So Mariota, I don't expect them to get dropped, but I expect him to have a bad game against Seattle, which means I expect him to be lower in his owner's percentage, which is I think 99 right now. I expect that to go down even more if he has a shitty week this week, as teams start to panic about their quarterback spot. They drafted Mariota to be almost a weekly starter, and he hasn't really done it yet. So if that happens, pick him up. Otherwise, he's not a bad, buy low. If you are looking for quarterbacks, maybe you got a Matt Ryan or a Drew Brees, and you need a good high upside guy. I don't necessarily recommend rostering 2 defenses, but there are some good defenses now that have tough matchups in week 5. That's Baltimore against Oakland. This is Buffalo against Cincinnati, potentially. Tampa Bay at home against New England on Thursday night. You have, that's pretty much it. Jacksonville, if you believe in Jacksonville, if you believe in Jacksonville as a defense, is at Pittsburgh as well. There are some good defenses to then pick up that could be potentially there. Cleveland and the Jets are playing each other. Either of those defenses aren't horrible. San Francisco gets Indy. Should be another low-scoring game. And then I mentioned earlier Buffalo against the Bengals. That could be a low-scoring game. There could be a lot of defensive points to be had there. So these are just a couple of things to keep in mind as the season starts to progress along. We're entering bye week time in 2 weeks. That's pretty much all I got. I'll be back on tonight to do news. Tomorrow, Chris will be on to do DFS stuff. Nick will be on Saturday to do his ins and outs, guys that are hurt that are questionable, that may or may not play, and then Nick will give his takes on that. And Sunday you get both Hopper and Nick doing their live stream. I believe they're doing it on YouTube Live, just answering questions that you guys either send out through the actual chat system on YouTube or just post off things they find on Twitter. I'm at work, unfortunately, so I can't be there for that. But that's all I got for now. I will see you guys in a little bit. As always, though, please like and subscribe on our YouTubes. Leave comment. Let us know how we're doing. Do the same thing with with our actual podcast and iTunes and Stitcher and Google Play and all those good things. You can follow both my co-hosts, Nick Sparks at Nick Sparks with a Z, not an S, then Chris Hopper at Hop BFF with 2 P's. The show and the Instagram page are both Beerfield FF. Facebook is Beerfield Fantasy Football. If you got questions and things like that, just please let us know how we're doing. Let us know if we need to improve and things like that. All right, guys, I'll see you soon. Peace.